I booked a 1 week trip to Poland, specifically Warsaw, recently, and I ended up staying for 3 months somehow. And I want to share that story with you because there's quite a few things I believe you can take away from it because I was shocked by what I saw in Warsaw. So, first and foremost, the reason I went was to meet up with one of my good friends in Warsaw. He was saying glowing things about the city, and he spends most of the year in Dubai actually. And he was leaving Dubai because it was too hot, and he said, "Hey, dude, come by. I'm gonna have a little get together with friends. Let's have a great time. Let me show you around the city. I absolutely love it here." I believe he's even looking into getting Polish citizenship, but don't quote me on that. And so I was like, okay, why not? I have a location independent business. I can go where I want, when I want, whenever I want. So I went ahead and showed up in Warsaw. And I didn't have that high of expectations for the city because I actually lived in Krakow before. And I spent a little bit of time previously in Warsaw. But I got to be honest, I didn't love my first trip to Warsaw. And I really didn't like Krakow all that much. Now, one of the things is I spent, I believe, a little over a year in Poland the first time around, and the massive problem with Krakow was the weather. And so I knew I wasn't going to like the weather, but I went during the summertime, obviously, so the weather wouldn't be an issue. So, with all that said, I didn't have super high expectations. I just wanted to go hang out with my buddy. It's been a while since I saw him. As a matter of fact, he always jokes, "Hey man, you just show up places," because I only gave him like a day notice or something. He was like trying to get me to show up for, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. And like the day before, I was like, oh, okay, I'll show up. But like I said, I was only planning on spending a week or maybe 2 weeks tops based on my previous experience in Poland. I was ready to go to other places like Lithuania, Estonia, Moldova, and a bunch of other places. But almost as soon as I landed on the ground, I knew the vibes were going to be different because it was summer, the vibes were good, and so I went to where I was staying near the Bowery district if you're familiar with Warsaw. And the energy in the air vastly different than when I was there previously, and I was previously there for like Christmas markets and during Christmas time where there was snow and it was gray and just kind of overall depressing. And the Polish people aren't known to be, let's say, the friendliest, but even on top of that, when you add depressing weather, it just kind of bogs everything down. But this time when I went, everyone's out, everyone's having a good time. The energy and the vibe of the city is just completely different. So the weather was amazing. You could enjoy rooftop bars. The outdoor cafe culture was something that I was shocked to see based on my first trip there. Given that the weather was nice, it was walkable. A lot of people are riding bicycles, and generally, it's just a really great summer city. And as I alluded to previously, the people in the social scene much better when the weather is better in my experience. Also, it helps that I got plugged into my friend's social circle, so I kind of had local friends on the ground almost as soon as I got there. And that was extremely helpful. And another thing that I really enjoyed is just like the mix of people in that social scene. So you have entrepreneurs, you have immigrants or expats, whatever you want to call them. You got a bustling business and economic scene. It's just a very vibrant atmosphere. And in fact, I actually made a video on this topic. And one of my favorite things about Poland, specifically Warsaw, is the level of person there is pretty decently high level. Like I said, my friend lives in Dubai. He went there, and he went there the first time, I believe, because he went with a high level networking group that went there. And why I say this is because Warsaw isn't like bottom of the barrel prices. It's still good value for your money, but it's not going to be like Vietnam or Colombia or Brazil. So it's not going to have that same level of bang for your buck. But because of that, the barrier to entry is a bit higher. And so you can meet a little bit higher level people economically, at least. And that's obviously good for networking and business connections and so on and so forth. And I should say, one other thing that didn't surprise me, but is of note, it's extremely clean and safe. And while I think the safety thing is a bit blown out of proportion at times in some areas of the internet, it is important to note that you're really not going to have any significant issues. You're not going to have to worry about getting mugged or crazy stuff like that happen, like you hear about in some of these other places, Colombia. And so, although it's not my primary concern, it is of note for many of you. And so, with all that said, kind of created like a Goldilocks event where you had great weather, a big, clean, modern, safe city, essentially right in the heart of Europe with extremely great connectivity, a vibrant, bustling social scene, a vibrant, bustling networking scene, and a walkable city, all for a fraction of the price of what you would pay in a place like Paris or London or some of those other more Western European countries. Even less expensive at the time than Prague, although over the next few years, I think that's going to quickly change because Poland is becoming one of the major economic hubs of Europe. And then I should also mention that I decided to stay even longer because there were other places that I wanted to check out during the summertime when the weather was nice, such as the Tri Cities area, Wrocław, and some other locations that I hadn't been to before. And I was pleasantly surprised. My favorite was probably Wrocław of the places that I went. Gdansk was all right, not my personal favorite. Gdynia, probably not saying that right, was all right. Sopot, not my favorite. Pretty boring in my personal opinion, although I went to Sopot at like the tail end of summer. But it could definitely be a nice change of pace from the big city life in Warsaw. Now, with all that said, it does have its issues. The main issue is going to be the fact that the weather isn't so great for a majority of the year. In fact, I have a whole video on this where people left some pretty interesting comments because I said, would I be able to live in Poland? No. I mean, I could spend 3 months a year there, maybe 4 months, but the rest of the time I wouldn't be interested because the weather sucks. Now, if you want to use it as like a base, that could be an option, and you could go to other places during the cold months. But for my personal taste, I couldn't live there long term all year round because I don't enjoy that weather. But it is a place that I highly, highly recommend overall. So, with all that said, if you haven't been, I would highly recommend adding that area of the world, not just Poland, but Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, to your summer bucket list. Now, with all that said, let me know in the comments down below if you're interested in going to any of these places or if you've been to any of these places. And I will see you in the next video. And as always, peace, much love.